One of the most maddening aspects of all the dieting that I did in my life before finally finding carnivore is that I was so deceived, so convinced that restricting calories was the answer. Everyone said, if you want to lose weight, well, then you just need to eat less calories. And for many periods of my life, I did eat less calories. I tracked and weighed every morsel of food that went into my body. And I would temporarily lose weight and it would thrill me, but it would never last. And if only I had seen the studies that I'm going to share with you today, because then I would have known that it was never going to last and why calorie restriction ultimately cannot work. Here's the first thing. When you practice calorie restriction, yes, you lose some fat, but you also lose bone. You lose muscle. It is not accurate to characterize weight loss from calorie restriction as fat loss because it's more like body loss. You are literally shrinking and you're losing important things along with the fat. Hopefully, it is self-evident that you don't want to lose your bone and muscle, but losing muscle is particularly bad if you're trying to lose fat. When you exercise and your muscles contract, your muscles take glucose out of your blood and into your muscle without the need for insulin. This means you have less of a need for insulin, which makes you more insulin sensitive. We've talked about insulin and metabolic health in previous episodes, but if you don't know what insulin is, it's a hormone your body releases to get glucose out of your bloodstream and into your body cells. And the reason why that is so important is because you can only have about 1 teaspoon of glucose or sugar in your blood at any given time, or it is literally lethal. When you eat a carby meal, your body has to get the sugar from the carbs out of your bloodstream and into your cells, and it does that with insulin. And it is strongly established in the medical literature that insulin causes weight gain. Losing muscle means you have less tissue available to remove glucose from your blood without the use of insulin. That is going to make it harder for you to control your fat levels. You've also probably heard that the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism is and the more calories you will burn. The fat that you lose with calorie restriction is not worth the muscle that you lose. And what's happening here is easier to grasp mentally when you think about what calorie restriction really is. Calorie restriction is a more tamely worded phrase for semi-starvation. If you watched my episode number 30 on the Minnesota starvation experiment, where I talked about how calorie restriction causes binge behavior, the 6-month period where the men were restricted to 1,500 calories a day, that was defined as semi-starvation. In that episode, I only talked about the behavioral consequences that the subjects experienced from the food restriction, but physically, these men were literally wasting away at that level of intake, and it was extremely damaging to their physiology. Health is not just about fat. Your body needs nutrients, and when you restrict to a level of semi-starvation, that is extremely distressing for your body. But here's where things get really interesting. Calorie restriction has been demonstrated to cause people to become type 2 diabetic. In his fantastic book, Why We Get Sick, Dr. Benjamin Bickman talks about this study. Starvation diet and very low calorie diets may induce insulin resistance and overt diabetes mellitus. And he says, one remarkable study explored the metabolic consequences of strict and severe calorie restriction in obese individuals with no prior history or evidence of insulin resistance. The subjects self-restricted their intake to around 800 calories a day, which resulted in varying levels of weight loss. Subjects lost between 8 and 35 kilograms, or about 17 and 77 pounds. No, 800 calories a day is not much food. In contrast to the link between body weight and insulin resistance, this state of weight loss caused over half of the study subjects to develop insulin resistance to the point of type 2 diabetes. In fact, with severe calorie restriction, the body can become demonstrably insulin resistant in just a few days. I have clients who have had periods of restricting themselves to 800 calories a day. At my most extreme, I was eating 1,200 calories a day and forcing myself to run 4 miles every day. I remember being pleased that I was losing weight at that level of restriction, but I had no idea the destruction that I was doing to my body, what that semi-starvation was doing to my hormones and to my bones and to my muscle, not to mention the inevitability of gaining the weight back and more when I could no longer continue to starve myself. Calorie restriction is still highly touted in our society as a way to better health, but it is trouble. Weight loss done with semi-starvation does not last, and your body needs nutrients. This is one of many reasons why I love carnivore so much and think it's such an incredible way of eating, because I eat far more calories than I ever have before. I get a deeper level of nutrients than I ever have before. And I am the leanest I have ever been, even leaner than when I was eating 1,200 calories a day and running cross country, which blows my mind because this is a lot less work and involves no tracking whatsoever. I am so thankful that carnivore has given me freedom from that struggle that I battled for literally decades of my life. So many clients that I have worked with have had the calorie restriction mentality so deeply ingrained that they would try to restrict their calories on carnivore, become legitimately hungry as a result, and then end up falling off the wagon and binging on carbs. Don't let this happen to you. Do not engage in semi-starvation and work to change this mentality. If you really want to lose weight and better your health, then stop eating the modern foods that are strongly demonstrated to make people sick and fat. Eat meat, the most physiologically bioavailable and nourishing, evolutionarily consistent food for human beings. Do this for long enough, at least a month, but ideally at least 3, and you will see your body and health completely change. Now, if you have trouble with cravings and you can't seem to stop giving into them and make carnivore happen, this is the work that I do with people in my course, Carnivore Eating Mastery. Go to my website, www.theroadtocarnivore.com for more details.